Okay, I got to get up there on that tall ladder, and I'm going to take all the wire nuts off now. Okay? And in fact, I'm not even sure if I'm going to use all these wire nuts just yet, because my light, I might need some yellow wire nuts up here. We'll see. And I'm curious what this what's happening with this green wire. It looks like it's just this wire nut. That's funny. See, they had two little pigtails, two green little pigtails on that. That's the ground wire. And they might have done one of the pigtails because the ground wire is really super short for some reason. I may have to extend that out with a longer pigtail, so at least I've got enough room to wire it up first off. Okay, so right now I'm going to take my wire tester, and there should not be any power up here right now, okay? Because as far as I'm concerned, I think I've got my switches all turned off, okay? And nothing seems to be on here. Okay, I'm not going to shut the camera off. We're going to let it roll. And I'm going to try my hypothesis of turning the first light switch generally that comes into your room is for your main light or ceiling fan that's in your room. And for this case, it should be the ceiling fan. And we're putting a light kit on the ceiling fan. So I'm thinking this orange light's going to go on if I touch the white and the black. Oh, look at that. Nothing's happening. Okay, they might have done the white with the red. And that's what they did, see? The red light, or the orange light is on. Can you see that? Okay, so the main power that's coming in is, or that first switch, is the red wire. And you know, they probably did that because in case they did not install a ceiling fan, they would have installed a light fixture on that red wire. So the first light switch, that when you come into a room, you always want your light or your power to come off, your very first one. Okay? So now I'm turning off that first one and I'm turning on the next one. Okay? And that should be this black and white one. Okay, and it is. You see the orange light go on? I hope you can see that on the video. I might have to hold it like this. Okay, that orange light is on right there. And this red one is off because I have the light switch off. Okay, now I'm touching the black and white, and that's the second light switch. Now, for all purposes, it doesn't really matter to me, okay, which light switch goes on in the room, because I've got the handheld remote. Should it really matter to me which light switch I make the power to the ceiling fan? And see, one of them is going to be a power switch for the ceiling fan. One is going to be off at all times. I can make this power the ceiling fan at all times, this one off all the time, or this one off all the time. And then off all the time, I can just leave it in the up position if I want after I get done hooking everything up, right? I could keep them all up. So does it really matter which goes which up there? I can hook up the white and black. If I hook up the white and black, I know this is the power, and this is going to be the dead one. If I do the white and red, this one is the power, and that's the dead one. Okay? So, you know, you can pick and choose whichever one you want. For the easiest thing, if we want, if we don't want to get confused, if you don't want to get confused and stuff, you can say, okay, let's just hook up the black wire and the white wire. Let's not worry about the red. If we were hooking up the red, obviously we're not hooking the black up there, but this black is the power, and we would connect this black to the red up there. And then we cap the black one off up there, okay? So either way, we can do it, okay? And what I'm gonna do, I always like to have the main power coming into the room hooked up to the ceiling fan, and that way I'll remember. But hey, you do whatever you want, and maybe I should look up there and see how long the black wire is, how long the red wire is. Maybe I'll make a determination that way. And I think they're about the same. Cause see, I'm gonna have to. I've got some other wire, and I can make a pigtail for the ground wire, right? I can make a pigtail for the ground wire because the ground wire is really short, and the red wire is just a little bit longer than the black wire. I've got enough room either way to hook up to the red or black. Okay, so I'll make a decision on that. And for the time being, for the sake of argument, I've got to leave. I'm turning the power off to both light switches up there, and the first thing I'm going to do is mess around with that ground wire. Okay, I got to put a little pigtail on that ground wire. Does that make sense? Because see how short that ground wire is? It's only sticking out a little bit out of that box, and you got to remember, I need enough coming off there because I'm going to have to route it in such a way. I've got this ground wire on this here to hook up, right? When this gets up there, oh, look at this. I've got this wire, okay, here. Once I screw that up, because this comes that way, so now I've got to set that up, and then this knuckle is still going to be part of this. I've got to take it apart, put the longer extension on it, but see, there's a ground. Here's a ground wire right here, kaboom. That's attached to this knuckle. Okay, so I got those two ground wires. Good grief. I've got those two ground wires to hook up, and then you remember on here, I've got two ground wires here. I got 4 ground wires to connect. We're not even talking about the wire that's up in the ceiling yet. Now do you see why I've got to run a pigtail up there, make that ground wire maybe 5 or 6 inches up there, so that however this gets mounted up there to the ceiling, I've got enough room to wire these all. I'm going to connect all these together, boom, 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 or 2 and 2, and then those 2 up to the wire in the ceiling, or I'll hook all 4 of these together. I'm not going to decide that until I get up there after I route this to see how easy it's going to be to do 4 all together, or 2 and 2, and then those up to the other. Okay, so that ground wire up there has got to be way longer than it is now. I have no idea why they made it that short. See, out of the box, it's only coming out of the box by a little bit. They should have made that way longer. That's why that yellow wire nut was up there with those 2 small little green wires. Well, I'm going to make that wire longer, and it's a good thing. I always carry extra wire, for pigtails and stuff. And I've actually got to look at that wire a little bit more closely up there so I can make the determination if it's 12 gauge wire or 14 gauge wire. And 14 gauge wire, because if it's 20 gauge wire up here, and usually I'm pretty good about feeling how stiff the wire is. This should be 12 gauge wire, okay? And so my pigtail on the ground should be a 12 gauge wire. If I had 14 gauge wire for a little ground wire, could I use that for the ground? Yeah, probably. But and I've got some 14 gauge ground wire too, just some bare copper end pieces, 8-9 inches long. But because I've got the 12 gauge, I'm going to use that, and that should be on a 20 amp circuit. And I looked into the electrical panel, and all of the breakers in the panel are 20 amp breakers, which is kind of cool, because this happens to be a condo, and I don't know if that was a requirement back then or what, but like most houses, most of your electrical receptacle circuits are 15 amp, and then lots of your lighting circuits are 15 amp, and you'll have some 20 amp electrical circuits like for your GFI electrical outlets, you know, in your kitchen countertops, and maybe for your garbage disposal, microwave, stuff like that. Now, see I mean, you call this a pigtail, and I'm probably going to save this one. I never know if I'm going to ever use that. It's already got that end on it. This is so small, it's not good for anything, and there's no way I'm going to try to use this for my pigtail. Okay, first off, it's not long enough, and I'm going to make it longer than that, and then I'm just going to connect the end to end, and then shove that back up in the box, and then let it stick down. And that's called a pigtail. Okay, I'm going to go get my parts, and I'll be right back and show you how it's done. Some people crack me up. They'll say, hey Joe, just get on with it. I just wasted 5 minutes of my life listening to you yak about doing an electrical ground. Get on with it. Well, you know what I have to say about that? Sorry about that, but this is just how I do videos. And if you really think about it, I'm actually giving you lots of information. It's almost like a classroom setting. If you want to think of it kind of like that, think of it as a classroom setting, because you should be learning all kinds of stuff, right? Now see here's my wire. This is 12 gauge wire, and I also had some 14 gauge ground wire. This is a lot thinner, and 14 gauge wire is thinner than 12 gauge. The bigger the wire, the smaller. The bigger the number on the wire, the smaller the size of the wire. I don't know why they do that. Why didn't they just do it the opposite? I don't know. And so I'm gonna keep this little bit. I'm gonna end up throwing this little piece away. But say, how many pigtails do I have enough for later on down the road? I think I might have, you know, 3 is kind of borderline, and 2 is really big, but I don't know if I want to go 3 with this. Let's just see how long this is to see if I can make I don't know, 7 inches. Is that long enough for a pigtail? That's pretty long. I mean, that way I can get 3 pigtails out of this one, and not just 2. And so I think I'm going to do that. Okay, there's my pigtail. It's not that long, but hey, you know, it'll work. It's going to work. I got faith that that's going to be long enough sticking out of that box. Okay. So I've got enough pigtail in there. This little piece I'm going to end up throwing away. And so that's why I explain stuff the way I do and show you, so that you're learning stuff along the way, man. Come on. And this, you know, I can leave the sheathing on here, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to leave that, and I'm going to see. You see, I could use an orange wire nut. No, actually, I'm going to use a yellow wire nut up there. I don't like doing two big wires, you know, two 12-gauge wires on an orange wire nut. I'm going to use a yellow. And now I'm just going to get up there. Let's just keep it like that. Okay. Get back up there. This is the first part of our project, right? I'm going to get up there, and I better double check, make sure my light switches are off. They are off. Okay. I don't care anything about the black, white, or red wire just right now. We're only concentrating on the ground. Okay? And so I'm just going to take this, bend it, hold it up there, and stick my wire nut on there. Now I could have done it a different way with some little crimper, ground caps, clips they're called. Twist those two together, put a cap on there. But the wire nut's fine, okay? The wire nut's fine. And I'm just gonna grab it and kind of turn it a little bit more. I mean, not much. It's tight, okay? And I'm gonna kind of bend this a little bit closer to that, like that. See, now I can kind of push that back in there. That's going to be sticking out of the box about there. Now I've got to make a decision. Do I use the red for hookup for the power, or the black? The black looks just a hair shorter, and and the red, remember, was for the first light switch coming into the room. I'm going to use the red, okay? And this black one, I'm just going to cut the tip off just a hair, because I've got the orange wire nuts, and I'm just going to use an orange wire nut on here. I'm going to cap that off, okay? And I'm going to shove that up here into the box forevermore. This is not going to be used for anything. That's for the second light switch on the wall. And if you want, you can put some black electrical tape up there. You don't necessarily have to. It's just the very last little electrical project I did. I went ahead and put it, I've got my tape handy. I'm just going to wrap that around. All that's going to do is confirm that this wire nut's never going to get loose, never going to come off that, never going to allow a power wire being left open inside a plastic junction box up there. Okay, how much longer did that take for your project? Not very long. Now I'm just going to put that right up here, I think, like so. You know, it doesn't have to be tricky. And so now I've got this is all I got left. I got a white wire, a red wire, and my ground wire. And I really wish the black and red were longer, but they're not. You know, could I put jumpers on there, little pigtails on there, smash those back up, let these stick out further? Yeah, I could. I'm going to do a dry run next though with my black power box, my my mounting bracket, and kind of see what I'm going to do with that. Okay, so that's the next step to my project coming up. I've got to look at this thing here, see how we're going to mount that.